When the president-elect falsely tweets about millions of people who voted illegally, there is a cause for alarm. As Berman writes in The Nation, his lies about the prevalence of voter fraud are a prelude to the massive voter suppression Trump and his allies in the GOP are about to unleash. Unlike his Democratic and Republican predecessors, Trump has little respect for the institutions that preserve American democracy. Joining me now, Ari Berman, senior contributing writer for The Nation, author of Give Us the Ballot, and Christina Greer, associate professor at Fordham University, author of Black Ethnics, Race, Immigration, Pursuit of the American Dream. So we have seen as a kind of predicate this ramp up of GOP assault on voting rights, obstacles to the franchise. What do you see coming now, and what do you base that on?
Well, it's going to get very, very ugly. I mean, now Trump has control of the presidency, Republicans have control of Congress, Republicans control half of the states in the country with one-party rule, and they're going to do a lot of different things. They're going to go after what's left of the Voting Rights Act. At the Department of Justice, they're going to be very aggressive in trying to purge the voting rolls, into launching investigations into voter registration groups, into stirring up further this manufactured crisis of voter fraud. We're going to see efforts to nationalize what Republicans have done in states. So federal voter ID laws, federal proof of citizenship laws. This could make it harder for millions of people to be able to vote already, on top of the efforts that are already existing in terms of voter suppression.
So this approach is actually really methodical, because if voting didn't really matter, Republicans wouldn't care.
Right.
But if we really think back to LBJ and really think about the Voting Rights Act, or the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Immigration Act is sort of a triumvirate of acts that LBJ put forth as like a progressive democratic policy. We can see this new Republican Party systematically trying to dismantle the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the Immigration Act altogether. And
we should be clear, this is just speculation. I mean, Chris Kobach, who is sort of one of the most aggressive sort of prosecutors of this kind of agenda, met with Donald Trump. He's being considered, we think, for various positions. He had a top sheet that he came out with that spelled out some of this stuff.
Well, we know who's around him. It's like the three horsemen of the apocalypse, between Steve Bannon, who's saying only property owners should be able to vote, Jeff Sessions, who's been hostile to the civil rights movement for 50 years, Chris Kobach, basically the voter suppressor in chief in Kansas, now being Trump's pick for Department of Homeland Security, possibly. The fact that Kobach has voting rights on a list of priorities for the Department of Homeland Security is chilling. He views voting rights as a Homeland Security threat.
We should just to say where that your Steve Bannon reference comes from, New York Times Scott Shane profile today, in which Bannon occasionally talked about the genetic superiority of some people, and once mused about the desirability of limiting vote to property owners. I said that would exclude a lot of African Americans. Ms. Jones recalled, he said, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Again, this is hearsay, but this is a recalled conversation. The final piece of this, of course, Supreme Court vacancy, where we can be confident or fairly confident that the views of, say, the Voting Rights Act are probably going to be not in line with the, quote, liberals on the court under Trump.
Well, I'm extremely worried that if Trump appoints another Scalia to the court, the Voting Rights Act, as we know it, is dead. And when Republicans said they want to take us back to the 1950s, this is what it means. No Voting Rights Act, no Civil Rights Act, no Fair Housing Act. That's what we're facing right now. This is a serious crisis to our democracy.